Hi everyone! So fall is right around the corner, and so today I thought it might be fun to do a little video on houseplants for autumn colors. So basically these are plants that are going to provide those nice, warm, fun colors that we all associate with fall in your home. Now I do want to state up front that if you don't have room for new plants in your home right now, that is totally fine. You're also going to start to see pumpkins, squash, and other types of gourds at a lot of your local plant stores, and those are other great ways to add fall colors into your home if you don't have space to bring in more plants. But if you do have space to bring in more plants and you are interested in bringing in those fall colors, these are going to be some good plant options for you. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. And once again, I am going to scoot this way a little bit so I have room to flash things up on screen for you over here. So the first two plants I want to take a look at today are both self-heading, aka upright philodendron, and I specifically did not feature these two in my recent upright philodendron video so that I could feature them in this video because the first one is very appropriately titled Philodendron Autumn. And you can see here why it is called Philodendron Autumn. It has these nice warm colors that we associate with the fall season, these reddish, orangish, sometimes even yellowish leaves, and then kind of like leaves do in the fall where they change colors from green into these colors, this plant actually does the reverse. The leaves come in these beautiful colors and then over time they fade into that green. So it gives you that changing of the leaves in addition to those beautiful autumn colors. Now, similar to this plant is Philodendron McColley's finale. Now, if you're looking at this and thinking that looks almost identical to the previous one, it is very similar. The colors are very similar, but I find the colors on the McColley's finale to be much brighter, whereas the ones on Philodendron Autumn are a little bit more muted and not quite as intense. So just up to you which one you kind of prefer more or which one goes better with the aesthetics in your house. But both of them are going to provide that beautiful fall color that we associate with this time of year. Now, the next plant on my list are actually this entire group of plants, and you're going to be seeing a lot of these popping up in your local plant stores right about now, and those are Crotons. So tons of variety for Crotons. You've got Petra Crotons, you've got variegated versions of Crotons, you've got the Picasso's paintbrush, which is one of my personal favorite Crotons, but you can see here all these different varieties, all these different color options, but they all have those colors that we associate with fall. And they stay these colors. They don't change really over time into like a green leaf like on the previous plants that we just talked about. So beautiful, beautiful plants. I will give you a warning up front to make sure you are doing regular pest prevention on your Crotons. They do tend to be prone to attract spider mites. If you have them in your house, they will flock to your Crotons. So just make sure you are being mindful of that. But excellent plants, beautiful plants. Once again, I really enjoy the Picasso's paintbrush. I find this to be a super sculptural looking plant with these super fine, thin leaves, but just lots of different options for your aesthetics in your home. Now, another great group of plants for autumn colors are Coleus. And I actually was at a local plant store yesterday and I saw these and I was just like, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Like, this totally gives me fall vibes. The colors are so warm and beautiful, and it just makes you feel like that fall pumpkin spice season is rolling around. And speaking of pumpkin spice, just curious how many of you guys are on the pumpkin spice bandwagon versus not. Comment down below and let me know. And yeah, tons of options for Coleus. Here are some other ones from earlier this season at a different store that are a little bit different, but you kind of see the kind of overall vibe. And one of the things that I really like about Coleus is they look more like the plants that you kind of associate in your mind, like trees and bushes and things that do change colors in fall. I feel like these leaves kind of remind me of those plants more because it's a little bit more of a, I don't know, common to your natural environment looking plant, unless you live in a very tropical environment where those philodendron grow in the wild, I suppose. But you kind of know what I mean. It gives me more of that realistic vibe of what's actually going on outside of my personal home during the fall season. So it's a nice way to bring that feeling and vibe indoors. But let's take a look at some yellowish plants because I associate that yellowish and mixed in with green color with fall as well. And recently we had a new type of ZZ plant hit the market, and that is called the ZZ Cameleon. And as you can see here, this is another one where the leaves will change over time. They come in this lovely shade of yellow, and then over time they fade into that green. So another great plant, not only for bringing in the fall colors, but having that changing of the leaves color happening in your home. This is also a great sculptural plant. It's great for a narrow space if you need an upright kind of narrowish plant. Now remember, over time, ZZ plants eventually will start to spread out a little bit more, but when they're young and for a number of years, they will stay relatively narrow in their growth pattern. So another great one for providing that fall and autumn look, feeling, and vibe in your home. And while we're on the topic of yellow and green plants, Diffienbachia Amy is the next one I want to look at. I think this is another great option if you're looking for that yellowish green combination. And this is definitely going to be a bigger plant. These Diffienbachias get relatively large over time. You can find them small in most stores to start out with, but they are fairly quick growers as well, and they will kind of spread out a lot. But if you're looking for a great like floor plant that's going to provide this kind of colors, this would definitely be a great option for you. And continuing on along that yellow vibe, let's look at one more yellowish plant, and this one is a Tradescantia. It is a Tradescantia spathacea Sitara's gold, I believe. If I'm incorrect in that, I will write it up on screen. But as you can see, another yellow-based plant, but I feel like this one is a little bit more golden in color and not quite as bright of a yellow as the previous yellow plants we were looking at. Now, this is a plant that is going to kind of grow wider over time, but it's not going to get really tall. It's going to stay pretty compact. So if you do have a smaller space in your home where you're wanting to put a plant that would provide this kind of color for that autumn season vibe, this would be a really good option for you. And actually there is one more kind of yellowish plant that I just was thinking about that would be good for people who want kind of a bigger plant, more of a kind of tree-like plant in their home, and that is a Dracenea. And this common name for this plant is Song of India, I believe. And this is a beautiful, beautiful plant. And I did see these ones recently that are relatively small, but they will get bigger over time, as you can see here. And so they aren't going to get big overnight. They are tree-like, like I said. So it does take a while to get that bigger size, but typically you can find them in any size range around this time of year that you need them. So whatever size would work best in a space in your home. This is another great one for those warm golden yellow colors that a lot of us associate with the fall season. But if yellow is not something that you particularly associate with the fall season, let's move on to an orangish color plant. And this is actually an Oxalis. It is actually called I believe an Oxalis. It's a long name, you guys, give me a second. It's an Oxalis spiralis, SPP, vulcanicola, sunset velvet or velvet sunset. I'll flash it up on screen for you guys. Very long name for what is a very beautiful plant, and obviously called that sunset part of the name because this kind of does invoke sunset type vibes with this orangish color and then somewhat almost into that reddish type coloring on this plant as well. Now, once again, this is an Oxalis, so care requirements for this are going to be pretty much the same as any Oxalis, such as your triangularis. This plant is technically a weed once again, so it likes to grow like mad, but do be aware that once we get out of fall and into winter, it is common for this plant to die, potentially completely back to the soil, but it will bounce back in spring, so don't throw it away. But definitely a good one for like a smaller space. They don't get very tall, they stay pretty compact, and they definitely give those fall vibes. Now this next one on the list is another one that can change colors, and I say can because really whether or not it will change colors depends on the type of lighting you put it in. And this is what is commonly referred to as a red mistletoe cactus. And this is an excellent trailing type plant if you're looking for something potentially to hang in your home that is going to provide those autumn colors. And this plant will start out green, and as you can see here, this one is starting to transition into red. And maybe if you like that half and half look, great. Put it in a place where it gets a little bit of direct light throughout the day, but not all day long. But if you really want to sun stress this plant and have a fully red plant, you can get it to look like this by putting it in the brightest spot in your home that you have. If you're in the northern hemisphere, I'm talking like a southern facing window. And this is sun stress, but just always keep an eye on the plant and make sure you're not actually starting to see leaf burn, and pull it back if you need to. But a beautiful, beautiful plant, and that whole like changing from green to red is definitely reminiscent of the autumn season, and so a great option once again, especially if you're looking for a trailing type plant. Now this next plant is a Euphorbia continifolia, and this is a great option if you are looking for an all red plant that is just going to pretty much stay all red. I also feel like this plant, similar to what I was saying about that Coleus, has kind of that more look of like the type of reddish leaves you're going to see in the fall when you walk outside of your house and you look around you in your natural environment, unless once again you are living in a very tropical environment or perhaps even a desert environment. But where I live, this is what that makes me think of. And so just a beautiful, beautiful plant. This plant is relatively easy to maintain in terms of keeping it in a relatively containable size. So another good one if you're kind of limited on space, but just beautiful, beautiful coloring on this plant. And I just think it's gorgeous. And I really like incorporating reds in with like orangish, yellowish, green plants to create fall color vibes in my home. So speaking of red plants, I just realized there's another one I want to talk about today, and I actually own this one, so let me go grab it real quick. So this is my Peperomia caperata Schumi Red, and it has this beautiful red coloration on it. And sometimes these leaves even look a little bit bronzy in color, almost taking on kind of a reddish brownish hue to them. And so I think this is another great plant for fall colors and creating that warm fall feeling inside of your home. And these definitely stay small and compact. They are not going to take up a ton of space. So if you're really short on space, this would definitely be a good option for you. There are a few other varieties of peperomias out there that are reddish in color as well. So you could definitely check out some more peperomias as options if you do have those smaller space requirements. But just a beautiful, beautiful plant. And you know, any combination of these plants, you guys, like, once again, kind of play around with it. You could mix textures, heights of the plants, the colors of the plants to create these fun autumn color moments in your home. And once again, you're gonna see pumpkins, gourds, all kinds of things of that nature in these same types of colors that we've been looking at today when you go to your plant store. So maybe, you know, you get one of those because you don't really have to worry about the space with that one, right? So you could have like a tall plant, this plant, and a little like mini pumpkin next to it to create these kind of cute autumn color vignettes in your home. And the last plant that I want to talk about, and I really probably should have mentioned this when we were talking about the yellow and green plants, but it just kind of popped in my mind because I am looking at getting one of these for outdoors right now, but they would make a good indoor plant as well. And that is what is more commonly referred to as a variegated shell ginger plant. I'll figure out what the scientific name is and flash it up on screen for you guys. But this plant, as you can see, has these beautiful elongated yellow leaves with this kind of stripish type green variegation on the plant. And this plant reminds me a lot of stromanthe plants. And interestingly enough, my stromanthe trio star plant that you're seeing here, this is commonly referred to as a tricolor ginger plant. And even though these are in different genuses, they actually are in the same order of plants. So that's part of the reason that they look very similar. But a lot of you know that a lot of people have problems with the stromanthe plants, especially when it gets to wintertime and if you don't have the perfect conditions in your home, especially when it comes to humidity. But the variegated shell ginger plant is way more forgiving. And so this would be a good alternative option to a stromanthe if you like kind of that look in terms of leaf shape, growth pattern, and kind of that kind of lined variegation on it, and you're looking to provide some fall colors in your home. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If so, please be sure to click that like and/or subscribe button down below. Once again, I just wanted to do kind of a fun video to help us get into the swing and spirit of all things fall. So hopefully you have enjoyed this and it has given you some ideas for potential plants to bring in your home if you have space and you're wanting to create that vibe. And I will let you know that I am planning on doing a similar video to this when we get into winter, so definitely be on the lookout for that one in a few months. But thank you so much for joining me today, you guys, and I look forward to seeing you again next time. Aloha!